8 terror suspects backed by Pakistan's ISI and Lashkar-e-Taiba have just been arrested. But here is the shocking part. 6 were hiding not in Kashmir, but in the garment factories of Tiruppur, Tamil Nadu. Using forged Aadhaar cards and the Bangladesh route, they infiltrated deep into southern India. Why is the ISI shifting its chessboard thousands of kilometers south? Let us analyze the geography of this new threat. To understand the mechanics of global power, we must strip away the emotional rhetoric and look strictly at the data. What we are witnessing is a calculated evolution in asymmetric warfare. The military establishment in Rawalpindi knows they cannot win a conventional war against India. The northern borders, particularly the line of control in Kashmir and the international border in Punjab, are heavily militarized, heavily surveilled, and extremely hostile to infiltration. Therefore, a basic realist calculation dictates that water finds the path of least resistance. In the brutal game of geopolitics, state actors will always probe for the weakest link in the adversary's armor. And that weak link, strategically speaking, is the eastern corridor and the vast internal migration networks of the Indian economy. If you look at the map of the Indian subcontinent, trace the highly porous eastern border with Bangladesh. It is a complex terrain of rivers, dense populations, and historically overlapping communities. Now, draw a line from that eastern border in West Bengal all the way down the eastern coast of the peninsula, ending in Tiruppur, a major textile and garment manufacturing hub in Tamil Nadu. This geographic line represents the new infiltration highway. Why Tiruppur? Why target a bustling economic zone in the deep south? The answer lies in the concept of demographic camouflage. Tiruppur employs hundreds of thousands of migrant workers from across the country. In a sea of internal economic migrants, a foreign operative with a forged Aadhaar card becomes completely invisible. The ISI understands that the primary vulnerability of a rapidly growing economy is its own chaotic expansion. By embedding operatives in southern industrial hubs, Pakistan achieves two strategic objectives simultaneously. First, they establish safe havens far removed from the hyper-vigilant security grids of Delhi and Kashmir. Second, they position their assets to potentially target the very economic engines that drive India's global rise. The intelligence data recovered from these arrests is deeply concerning. The authorities seized dozens of mobile phones and 16 SIM cards. This was not a localized module. They had already conducted test runs for their psychological operations. Just 10 days prior to their arrest, these operatives successfully placed posters in highly secure zones like the metro stations across Delhi and Kolkata. The messaging demanding a free Kashmir was a deliberate provocation. But more importantly, it was a proof of concept. It proved they could operate in the capital, execute a task, and vanish back into the demographic ocean. The command and control structure of this network is a textbook example of proxy warfare. The investigation revealed that these operatives were receiving funding from terrorist organizations through a handler based in Bangladesh, who operates under the ultimate direction of masters in Pakistan. This three-tier system, Rawalpindi to Dhaka to Tamil Nadu, is designed specifically to maintain plausible deniability. Now let us look at the sheer hypocrisy of the international system. At global forums, Pakistan frequently positions itself as a victim of terrorism. They point to domestic incidents, such as the February 6th suicide blast at a mosque in Islamabad, an attack claimed by the Islamic group. Yet, the data shows that the Lashkar-e-Taiba module arrested in Tamil Nadu was allegedly planning retaliatory strikes inside India for that very mosque blast in Pakistan. The ISI uses domestic tragedies to fuel external proxy wars. They redirect radicalized assets outward to serve state interests. Meanwhile, the global community, deeply entangled in their own geopolitical games in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, conveniently turns a blind eye to this state-sponsored terror network. The international system does not run on morality, it runs on leverage, and currently, holding Pakistan accountable is not high on the priority list of Western powers. This brings us to a critical realization regarding the scale of the threat. This module was not planning low-level disruptions. Security agencies indicate that Lashkar-e-Taiba was plotting improvised explosive device attacks near the Red Fort and prominent religious sites, including a temple in Chandni Chowk. To grasp the severity of this, we must look at the recent timeline. Consider the operational continuity. Just 3 months ago, on November 10th, a deadly car explosion took place near the Red Fort metro station, killing 12 people and injuring dozens. The driver was a Kashmiri doctor from a university in Faridabad. That was not an isolated tragedy, it was part of a massive logistical operation. On that exact same day, authorities discovered 2,900 kilograms of explosives, including ammonium nitrate, hidden just 50 kilometers away in Faridabad. The sheer volume of that explosive material requires state-level logistics, vast funding, and strategic patience. When Indian intelligence dismantled that specific cell, the handlers in Pakistan did not surrender. They simply shifted their assets. They activated their backup modules hiding in the garment factories of Tamil Nadu. This brings us to the most crucial part of our analysis, the India angle. What does this mean for India's national security and its position on the global chessboard? First, India must completely internalize the doctrine of strategic autonomy. No Western intelligence agency, no United Nations resolution, and no diplomatic pressure will secure Indian cities. The fact that foreign operatives can acquire forged Aadhaar cards and secure employment in major industrial hubs exposes a critical vulnerability in the internal security apparatus. A digital identity system is only as strong as its weakest verification node. This is where the concept of Atmanirbharta, or self-reliance, must evolve beyond manufacturing military hardware. India desperately needs Atmanirbharta in internal security technology and demographic mapping. We must develop indigenous foolproof biometric verification systems that cannot be bypassed by local corruption or forged documents. If an adversary can buy an Indian identity for a few thousand rupees, then billion-dollar missile defense systems offer little protection against asymmetric threats. Furthermore, the strategic lesson here requires a massive recalibration of border management. The eastern border can no longer be viewed strictly through the lens of localized smuggling or illegal immigration. It is an active national security vulnerability being exploited by the ISI. India must apply relentless diplomatic and economic pressure on Bangladesh to dismantle the terror launchpads operating on its soil. If a neighboring state cannot police its own territory, India must reserve the right to secure its interests unilaterally. On a domestic level, state governments must realize that national security is not solely the responsibility of the central government. The fact that a terror module could quietly embed itself in Tamil Nadu requires a fundamental shift in how local police and industrial sectors monitor migrant populations. Information sharing between central intelligence agencies and local state police must be absolute and frictionless. Political differences between the center and the states cannot be allowed to create blind spots that foreign intelligence agencies can exploit. India is projecting power on the global stage. It is an economic powerhouse and a rising military giant. But the foundation of national power is internal stability. An adversary like Pakistan, facing absolute economic collapse, will increasingly rely on cheap, deniable proxy warfare to bleed India's resources and disrupt its economic narrative. To counter this, India must become a fortress, not just on its borders, but within its own cities. Before we conclude, a quick question for you. Which Indian state shares the longest international borderland with Bangladesh? Is it A. Assam, B. Tripura, C. West Bengal, or D. Meghalaya? Let me know your answer in the comments below. In geopolitics, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Thank you for listening.